I found the testimony both of Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth yesterday, Marco Rubio today, to be pretty illuminating. When it came to Hegseth, there actually wasn't much time the Democrats spent badgering or interrogating him about his foreign policy ideology. And the reason for that is that Pete Hegseth has had the pretty standard bipartisan hawkish view on foreign policy, and the Democrats really don't object to that. They can't object to that. There are so many people, including the Biden administration and the Democratic Senate caucus, who agree with that. What are they going to do? Attack him for having served in the Iraq War when huge numbers of Democrats, including the current president, were vocal advocates of the Iraq War or the war on terror that Obama carried out, or regime change in Syria and Libya that Obama did, that the NATO war in Ukraine that the Democrats support? And so I thought what was most telling was not anything that Hegseth said particularly about foreign policy, but the way in which Democrats avoided it almost entirely in favor of a dreary focus on culture war issues, on whether the few hundred female infantry members in combat should be able to continue to fight in combat, about other comments that he made along those lines, but more so just delving into the grime of his personal life in a way that was very voyeuristic and morally disgusting. Certain things that they raised about his drinking, if the Secretary of Defense has a drinking problem, and that can be demonstrated. I, of course, think that active alcoholism can be an impediment to doing a job that important. I think it's reasonable to probe if you have evidence for it. But probing into his personal life, and by the way, a prior Defense Secretary nominee, John Tower, who was nominated, I'm pretty sure, by Bush 41, and he was in the Senate, so all of these were his colleagues, and they thought his nomination would be secured for that reason. The Senate very rarely rejects one of their own. Ended up having his nomination either withdrawn or rejected because of concerns about his alcoholism. I'm not going to say that's invalid if you have a basis for it, but this kind of inquiry that Senator Tim Kaine pursued, just delving into things like extramarital affairs and his children, this is the kind of thing you do when you don't have any substantive disagreements with the nominee, and so you just try and demean and humiliate and discredit him by exposing the parts of his personal life that, while not particularly noble, are not exactly uncommon either. Here's part of what Tim Kaine, who, by the way, was Hillary Clinton's vice presidential nominee in 2016, you probably have forgotten that, despite how charismatic and exciting that choice was, but here is what he tried to do to tear Pete Hegseth down.
That occurred in Monterey, California in October 2017. At that time, you were still married to your second wife, correct?
I believe so.
And you had just fathered a child by a woman who would later become your third wife, correct?
Senator, I was falsely charged, fully investigated, and completely cleared.
So you think you were completely cleared because you committed no crime? That's your definition of cleared? You had just fathered a child 2 months before by a woman that was not your wife. I am shocked that you would stand here and say you're completely cleared. Can you so casually cheat on a second wife and cheat on the mother of a child that had been born 2 months before, and you tell us you are completely cleared? Senator, how is that a complete clear?
Senator,
I'm not saying, if that behavior is accurately described, that it's admirable or noble, obviously. But these people are the party of Bill Clinton. They, every 4 years, stand on their feet for Bill Clinton and cheer for him, despite the fact that he not only had extramarital affairs that, according to many of the women, they were not consensual. It was sexual harassment in the workplace. In the case of Juanita Broderick, it was rape. These are the allegations that have been made, and many of them have been substantiated, and these Democrats never cared at all. And he wasn't the Secretary of Defense, he was the President of the United States. But I found so notable how so much of the confirmation hearing was not about his foreign policy views, but about these sideshows like this. Because the Democrats just don't have many foreign policy disagreements with the Republican establishment. That's why so much of the Republican establishment was aligned with the Democrats and behind Kamala Harris. One of the only few people that asked him about his actual views on policy was Tom Cotton, who arguably is the most fanatical warmonger in the U.S. Senate. I think he's the most extreme authoritarian as well. Everything that the MAGA movement claims it stands for, Tom Cotton is the antithesis of it in almost every case, certainly on foreign policy and civil liberties. But he actually did ask Pete Hegseth about a foreign policy issue, namely his support for Israel and its war in Gaza. And it's very odd. It seems like this colloquy took place without any knowledge that Donald Trump was not just pursuing, but on the verge of facilitating a peace deal that would call for the Israelis to stop their hostilities in Gaza and withdraw from there, because Tom Cotton was insisting that Pete Hegseth affirm the right of Israel to continue to destroy Gaza with U.S. help. Here's what that exchange was.
Here. Many of them seem to be patriotic supporters of you, Mr. Hegseth. Some of them seem to be liberal critics of you. I would note that it's only the liberal critics that have disrupted this hearing. As was my custom during the Biden administration, I want to give you a chance to respond to what they said about you. I think the first one accused you of being a Christian Zionist. I'm not really sure why that is a bad thing. I'm a Christian. I'm a Zionist. Zionism is that the Jewish people deserve a homeland in the ancient Holy Land where they've lived since the dawn of history. Do you consider yourself a Christian Zionist?
Senator, I'm a Christian, and I robustly support the state of Israel and its existential defense, and the way America comes alongside them is a great ally.
Thank you. Because another protester, and I think this one was a member of Code Pink, which, by the way, is a Chinese Communist front group these days, said that you support Israel's war in Gaza. I support Israel's existential war in Gaza. I assume, like me and President Trump, you support that war as well, don't you?
Senator, I do. I support Israel destroying and killing every last member of Hamas.
And
it's so bizarre that they had that exchange one day before Trump said, I got a deal for Israel to stop destroying Gaza. And I think what this shows is that there are a lot of people that Trump chose who have ideas that a lot of people pointed to try and say, oh, anyone who's convinced about Trump's anti-war position is stupid, is naive. Look at all these people he appointed. This proves that he has no interest in any of that. And what I think this proves is that the person who's going to be making the big decisions about policy is not Marco Rubio or Pete Hegseth. It'll be Donald Trump, at least in a lot of those cases. And sometimes Trump is going to decide in a way that is very militaristic, but a lot of times he won't. And this whole incident that we just are now going through with Israel is, I think, perfect proof of that. There is evidence that suggests that drinking 2 to 3 cups in the morning of coffee could slash your risk of death by 29%. And cut your chances of heart complications by nearly half. But that's not the only benefit you get from drinking your coffee. Coffee can also be helpful in fighting censorship while tasting excellent. That's why I've always been proud to have 1775 coffee as a supporter of our show. This isn't just coffee. It's like a rebellion in every cup and every sip. It's handpicked at high altitudes and sourced from single origin farms. 1775 coffee delivers bold flavor and real benefits that Starbucks crappy sugar company can't touch. Boost your metabolism, protect your heart, and stay sharper than a debate on free speech. Whether it's beans, grounds, or pods, every sip of 1775 coffee takes a stand against a sugar-packed mediocrity. Head to 1775coffee.com. Use the promo code Glenn for 15% off and improve your mornings with coffee that fuels bold flavor, uncompromising quality, and helps Rumble in the free speech fight that it stands for every day. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.